Supreme Court with another decision today, and this is about recess appointments. Now, President Obama has been doing some because the Republicans are filibustering all of his appointments. For the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they said, we don't care who you appoint. In fact, they said one of the people that he appointed, they liked, they had no problems with. It doesn't matter. We're going to block them all because we don't like the law that you legally passed before. But we're going to cry about it now and say, well, we're going to use our power to block every appointment you have. In fact, we're going to go above and beyond our constitutional powers. We're going to do filibusters, which are, of course, not in the Constitution. That's just a rule of the Senate. It could be changed by the majority at any time. We're going to come back to that because that's important in a second. But the justice didn't like President Obama doing recess appointments. They said, his talking points memo explains here, they held that the Constitution does not permit the president to appoint people to government positions without Senate approval when the chamber is in a pro forma session. So now that's a little technical. I got to explain that to you, right? Sometimes they go on these what are called pro forma sessions where they don't actually do anything. They just send a couple of senators to come in and gavel the proceedings to pretend they're doing something, but they literally do not do anything. There are no senators, there's no bills introduced, there's nothing, except those couple of guys that come in and say, we're technically in session, so the president can't appoint anyone, now let's go home. That's the whole point of the pro forma sessions. So the president can't appoint anyone during a recess of Congress, okay? Now, Justice Stephen Breyer, who wrote the decision here, and actually it was a unanimous decision, so you have to understand that. And Justice Stephen Breyer is one of the so-called liberals on the court. He says, for purposes of recess appointments clause, the Senate is in session when it says that it is, okay? So they say, look, you can't argue with the Senate. If the Senate says it's in session, even if they don't do anything, they're in session. Sad day for you. Now, you actually have to give the liberals on the court a little bit of credit here because they're being consistent. This is how they ruled in the past. This is how they're ruling now. The conservatives, when Republicans were president, said, oh, you're crazy, man. Oh, the recession appointments are awesome. Obama's president, God damn recess appointments. Yeah, now we're with the liberals. Yeah, totally terrible. Unconstitutional. They argued, the people in favor of taking away this right from the president, they argued that they were in session even if they were not conducting any legislative business. Okay. So the Republicans are ecstatic about this, of course, and they came out after the decision and said the president did a, quote, an unprecedented power grab. It was, quote, a brazen power grab. Gee, I wonder if these are talking points. It was disturbing and a dangerous tendency on the part of the president, and the Supreme Court delivered him a powerful rebuke. Okay, great. Well, okay, so look, they probably have a point here, right? I mean, I'm sure President Obama has abused this recess appointment. Whenever Senate goes out for a lunch break, he's doing recesses that the senators wouldn't normally approve because you know what you need, right? You need, the reason is some of president's appointments, like justices, but more important in this case is for executive positions, the people who he's supposed to staff, they work for him in the executive branch. That's his purview, right? But some of them have to get Senate approval, right? So the Senate goes, no, I'm not going to approve anybody. Nope. And we're never in session. We're never out of session, I should say. So you can't use the one power you have as president that if we're out of session, then you could put these guys in for the duration of that next session. Okay, so, but obviously President Obama must have abused this. So let's take a look at the amount of recess appointments that presidents have made in recent history. Ronald Reagan made 240. Whew, I can't wait to see the number on Obama, man. Because it made so much more than that. George H.W. Bush, who's also a Republican, actually really dialed it down. He only had one term, but he only made 77. It's much less than Ronald Reagan per term. I've always thought that the senior Bush was far more reasonable than any other Republican in my lifetime. Bill Clinton did about 139, about the same rate as George H.W. Bush, just a little less actually if you break it down per term because he had 2 terms. George W. Bush brought it back up to 171, not near the Gipper. But you can see here Republican presidents doing more recess appointments until Obama. Now, let me show you the gigantic number of recess appointments Barack Obama has done over the last 5-6 years. 32. Now, wait a minute. I thought he was abusing the process. What happened? Ronald Reagan did 240. Obama only did 32. But Republican politicians and the Republicans on the court just happened to realize when Obama's in power, oh my God, recess appointments? How could you do that? That is so terribly unconstitutional. What an abuse of power. Why wasn't Reagan abusing power when he did 240 times? Why wasn't George W. Bush abusing power? I don't know. Who cares? We're the Supreme Court. We don't have to make sense anymore. Look, in decisions like Citizens United and McCutcheon, the Supreme Court said corporations are human beings. And they have free speech rights, and that means they can make unlimited contributions to through independent expenditures and sometimes directly to political parties. I mean, so the Supreme Court said, and you know what they said? If we do unlimited contributions, or we let people do unlimited contributions to politicians, there's not even an appearance of corruption. Oh, you just got $25 million from Sheldon Adelson or the Koch brothers or George Soros? I don't see any corruption. So the Supreme Court is an absolute joke. Now, I'm sure, in order to be consistent, they went back and said all the recess appointments, not just the ones that President Obama did recently, are now null and void, right? Oh, they didn't. Interesting. Perhaps maybe because this guy got a recess appointment from George W. Bush. Well, who the hell is that guy? Oh, his name is Eugene Scalia. That would be Justice Antonin Scalia's son. So when George W. Bush gave your son a recess appointments were perfectly constitutional. Now that President Obama has done far less recess appointments, all of a sudden it's unconstitutional. See how that works?